Hi everyone, welcome to the Car Chat podcast. I'm Sam Moores, and with me today I have Jayde Deverson. Hello.
Sam, hello.
Welcome. We've
Thank you very much.
Dealing with a bunch of technical issues, but we are here. Can you tell the listeners a sort of short summary of who you are, what you do?
Sure. Well, as you introduced, I'm Jayde Deverson. I design luxury garage environments for car collectors around the world. It's pretty short and sweet. That's what I do.
Well, that's why I wanted to get you on, because it's a topic I've not covered in any way, shape, or form, and I think anyone that's loosely into cars is probably at least wants a garage on whatever scale. And I'm sort of interested in some things that come up and what goes into doing this on the sort of varying scales that you offer. So this journey, where did this start? Because I don't feel like you've been doing bespoke garages for your entire life.
Look, you're right. I had a few years of schooling at the beginning. But look, I fell in love with cars when I was very, very young. My father was, still is a very, very keen modern car enthusiast, and we're talking modern cars back from the late 50s and 60s.
Okay.
So that's where it started. And there are photographs I've seen, there are wonderful photographs of him in that time with his very cool sunglasses, these great, really sharp suits, and driving Triumph Spitfires, Australian models like FE Holdens, and all sorts of great stuff. So he really started me off. He really got me into cars. Probably around about 14, I fell in love with my first car, and that was the C-Type Jaguar, the Le Mans 53 Le Mans Minute. And around the same time, I started to evolve the notion that my life was about design and making things and going fast. And internal combustion, 2 wheels and 4. So it really took till I was 40 to realize that designing houses, designing interiors, designing and building cars, restoring cars was the only place I wanted to be. And I was trying to work out what to do with the next story, because at 40, it really all did start to begin again. And I realized that, well, I'm just going to try and design garage environments for clients. People like my garage. It was a 6-car garage with a mezzanine floor and some nice joinery I put in there, and hoist and my workshop. I plumbed in my air compressor. I had I made sure that everything was easy to hand, so I could restore quickly and move on to the next car really quickly.
Okay.
And so then I thought, well, I'll try to do this for a living. First job I did for a client ended up, it's a 1950s Art Deco revival garage. I ended up getting a small documentary made about the garage. I ended up getting magazine features across Australia. I had American interest. I had all sorts, and I realized I was onto good things. So I just stuck to that. So from the past 15 years now, I've just been focusing solely on the structure itself and the interior fit out.
Interesting. Before that, so were you working as an architect or were you in that sort of lead-up period?
I left school. I was desperate to be an architect when I was in high school, and my careers advisor said I was an idiot. This is 1986. He said, "Deverson, you're an idiot. There's no school, no room for architects left anymore. It's all going to be done by computers." And I thought, well, this is a bit demoralizing. So I ended up doing drafting. I did interior design. I did landscape architecture. I did a lot of design. I focused a lot on the furniture design that I enjoy doing as well. And I made a name for myself in interesting furniture design, lighting design, and buildings. So I was doing a lot of buildings, but life was a bit cruel to a young man in the late 80s and 90s trying to become a design professional in an international sense. And so I left that. I stayed in a complete departure. I went into event management in car shows because I was in a lot of car clubs. So I organized a lot of stuff, and it was a bit empty. This went on for quite some time, and then I continued with my studies, and then at 40 I thought, it's just time for me now. So I threw in my very, very lucrative, comfortable job, said goodbye to my employees and said, that's it, I'm going to go and draw pictures for a living. And within 12 months, I had a project that was gaining international attention, and that was it. I just went from there.
So, and how did you get that first project? Because presumably, okay, you have been involved in loosely these sorts of things before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you get that first project?
Offered to do it for free and work like a dog.
Okay.
Make everything. Convince the client, this is what I can do. I think you should spend. You pay for the materials. I'll do all the design. I'll even do the labor. So I built most of it myself.
Oh, really?
I laid the tiles. I did most of the joinery, most of the interior fit out. And it won some awards. I think I had 5 or 6 magazines do features on it.
I was just wondering, was that part of the plan? Like, did you have a plan to be like, okay, hopefully this is going to look sick, but I've actually arranged up and I've been telling people about it.
Yeah. Look, I didn't tell anyone because I was the sort of guy, a young guy, that I thought, well, I'll have an idea. I'll share it with friends. I'll share it with family, and I'll just see where it goes. This time I thought, well, some things worked out, some things didn't. So I thought I'd just keep it to myself. I just talked to my wife about it. And we agreed that let's just do it. Let's do it quietly. Let's just do it and just put absolutely everything in it. I think in business, the people who are the success today are the ones who just work 90 hours a week for virtually nothing for the first key period. And I decided that's what I had to do. And I advocate that now to the people that come to me and talk to me about advice on their companies and their dreams. So I do the same thing. Just find the person who is going to back you and then put absolutely everything into it. And that's what I did. I just worked like a Trojan for 6 months. It worked. And then I had launch parties, and we put a lot of money into it. We invited 290 people to the launch. I think we had 350 turn up. We had the police attend because the streets were blocked up with cars. We caused a bit of a fracas. But that's how it worked. You just jump in. You just have a go.
Yeah. With it, I mean, that's a lot of people for the opening of someone's private garage.
Yeah. I knew a lot of people.
I knew a lot of people. And you're involved with all these car clubs and stuff.
Yeah. Like I've been in car clubs since I was 14. And so you just invite all the people that you know, and you just tell them, and you get the list. And it did. It worked out really well. I was expecting 100 people to turn up. I've never given away so much free beer and wine in my life.
Well, that helps.
Yeah.
So was that, and part of that, so you're saying you did a lot of the labor yourself.
Yeah.
Do you think, this sounds sort of obvious, but like having that ability or to put in the effort and do all of, I presume you've tried most of the things that go into building something now.
Yeah.
Do you think that gives you a good, what does that do when you're designing something versus just being a straight designer?
A picture
the knowledge of having done it.
Oh, look, that's the key thing. I think anyone who's going to profess to be an expert in a field, especially when the field involves theoretical and then a practical application of of skills, of physical skills. If you haven't been out there and actually done it yourself, you're going to struggle to convince seasoned tradesmen that this weird thing will work.
Right.
So I thought that, look, I love building things too. So what I design, I can generally make. I do a lot of fabrication and a lot of building work, but purely for fun. Purely for myself. I'm not a professional. I'm just an amateur who likes to do this stuff. But the design work, definitely designing the stuff and making it was that first step was really to convince myself, my friends, my automotive community and potential customers, but also the trades that I was relying heavily on, that this can be done and it's a thing. Trying to put grade 5 commercial grade porcelain tiles on a garage floor that slopes over 6 meters sloped. There was a fall of about 150 mil, and then having to resurface the concrete and then build it up and then build it up even further, when I had people coming and saying, you can't tile that, you're just an idiot. So I thought, well, yeah, you're probably right, but let's have a go. Let's see what happens.
Okay, so actually, I've never thought about that, and this is definitely a very boring question. But making a sloping bit of concrete, do you literally do it in like layers and then kind of like almost like, how do you do that?
There are two ways to answer it. The first way is, this is how I used to do it in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
Grind off the concrete, use a self-leveling concrete and pour it out. The way I do it now is, hello, Jim, yes, we need to get the concrete level. Yes, get it done tomorrow, please. Thank you. That's how I do it now. So look, anything is possible. The only limitations to what we can do is physical reality, the laws of physics, and the depth of a client's pockets. Anything can be done, whether it's demolish and restart or dig something up. We've actually got quite a tremendous project in Cyprus at the moment. There's 6,000 square meter warehouse we're converting into a private garage museum. There's a lot of concrete on the floor, and it's all cracked. It all has to come up. We're talking an acre of concrete has to come up so that we can redo it. We're not going to just put some self-leveling screed on there and just try and make it work. So there's lots of realities to what we're doing, and everything is different. Everything has its own challenges, and that's the commercial. That's the reality of utility buildings around the home or around a residential or commercial space for people to live.
With that first project you did, if I Google something, will I be able to find pictures?
Yeah. Look. Okay. Type in the streamliner. Google the streamliner.
Hotel apartment?
No, the streamliner diner. Streamliner diner. Try that one.
Amazing what all sorts of stuff turns up. Some watches. The streamliner diner, downtown Seattle. No, might be one of those ones where we come back to it.
Streamliner diner.
Whereabouts is it?
In Australia. Streamliner diner. Try Streamliner diner garage. Australia. See what that does. Yeah. You'll probably find someone house.
Adelaide? Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Now, we don't talk too much about where it is. I don't necessarily want to end up in a legal issue because the client has all of a sudden been doxed around the world, and he's...
No, you don't want any of that.
No, but so those images, that's the first one. That was a lot of fun. That's it.
Is that a problem? Like, because these are private garages, I presume often.
All the time. Yeah.
Like, the person doesn't really necessarily want you to showcase it.
Correct.
Or
that's been my biggest problem.
Definitely from the outside. Like, how do you deal with that?
Yeah, look, that's been my biggest problem. Had I been able to promote what I've done, and recently we're talking to someone who's got a vast collection in a small island in the South Pacific, who everyone knows, and I would love to talk to everyone about that and his royal heritage, but I would end up being invited on a very short trip across the Atlantic, and I would probably be expected to swim the second half of the journey. So the biggest problem has been designing things for interesting people and pushing up as far as possible up that the ladder to get to the best jobs. And the further you go up, it's the size of the project is inversely proportionate to the willingness of the client to share. So my business has grown basically from word of mouth from the people that have had the first garage, or spoke to their friends, and then been willing to talk about it, and I've had some interaction. And the first 5 years is probably really a lot of magazine articles as well. So that really helped. But I don't advertise, I don't promote it in any way. But certainly working with Equus in the UK has been just such a transition. Because Hugh's client base and our decision to work together as colleagues in this field has meant that he can share what I've been doing and what we now do together around the world, and it really is. It's growing really well. So that's been the big break, is really transitioning out of one country and just moving internationally.
Right. Okay. I've just found your website. Interesting. Yeah, that must be. I mean, this was such a nightmare, because it was actually one of the problems that I came across when I was just like thinking of, okay, what sort of guests might I want? What have I not done? What am I slightly interested in? I'm doing a renovation project myself at the moment at our house, and we're going to have a garage. And
let me give you my business card.
Not sure how much designing it needs, but we're doing something, and I was pondering, and I was looking around, and honestly, the biggest problem I found a bunch of names, just like, it's in a magazine or whatever, and then I look at the website and I'm like, but I can't see any of the things you've done, so I can't tell if you've actually done anything. Because like often it might be a render or something, and you're like, have you built this?
Look, there's a lot of people around the world who profess to be enthusiastic professionals in the garage industry, in specializing. But the reality is they will be builders and designers whose first and foremost, they are specifically around their core function, which is designing residential properties, because that's where they make their living. Or they're builders who focus on commercial things, and that the garage space is either beneath the dignity of the architect to lower herself to designing a garage. And at the end of the day, it's an outbuilding. I mean, if you're going to design a beautiful building, you want to be known for designing. You want to be known to be Le Corbusier. You want to be designing something like Villa Savoy in Poissy. You don't necessarily want to be known for designing a very fancy garage in the back of downtown somewhere or other, even if it does hold 300 cars. And the same really is true of interior design and decorating as well. There are very few people who in the interior fit out and design area who really want to put all of that effort into organising where the dartboard and the beer can collection goes. And what can we do with that old Ford Anglia engine? Could we turn it into a coffee table? And so I decided, well, no, there's dignity in that. And more so, it's a lot of fun. And so that's what I do. So, look, I've been doing that. It's been working really well for 15 years. Can I tell all the stories? I can tell stories without some names and keep the locations. Can I show all the images? Not really. And that's been the biggest problem. I can show you off camera some of these great things. And I can talk about them. But, it's a battle. And really, it's what I did probably in this sense, it's truer than for many industries that you are only as good as your last job. If what comes next is a product of the quality of the previous project and that client's willingness to share with their friends and who sees it. And I've had one client. We spent nearly 18 months designing and fabricating a lot of stuff for this really fantastic garage. And I heard from a mutual friend who went to visit that when asked who did this, he said, "Oh, just a guy I know." And so I ended up becoming just a guy that someone knows. No names. So frustrating.
People are like, I don't want someone else to have this cool. It's I totally get it. I mean, I suspect everyone listening will totally get why. Actually, and it does make me think, actually, because we are using an interior designer for a lot of our projects, and who's very good, but not a hardcore automotive enthusiast, builder, whatever. Like that's not her thing. And I'm suddenly thinking, actually, if we're designing the inside of my garage, even if it's basic stuff, like cupboards, but you're like, I'm probably going to keep some tools in there, and do I need some work surfaces, and like maybe I'm going to have a lift, I like all these sorts of things. You're like, well, I 100% need someone at least like to ask someone who this is their thing.
There are two ways to actually there are two aspects of what you're saying, which is really important. The first is the practical aspect. You're working, even if you're just setting up a garage at home, which has got maybe 3 bays, and you're dedicating 1 bay to maintaining your precious car that you love. You'll kick out one of the daily cars so that you can use the extra bay just for some maintenance or some extra work. Even at that very low level, even at that very base function level, why not have your air compressor plumbed in? Just so that you don't have to roll it out from a cupboard and find somewhere to plug it. It's always that little job. If the lawnmower was easily accessible, you'd mow the lawn every week. If it's not accessible, it's a battle, and you've got to have a think about it, especially you've got to traipse down 150 metres to the bottom yard and get it out and then find the petrol tin. So that practical application of the reality of how we set the space up is really important. And who knows that? I mean, who knows that if they're not working in that space? And then you switch over to the aesthetic. And the aesthetic is really important because, when I design a garage space for someone, really I'm creating a biography of their life. It's a physical museum as a bit of a celebration of that person's life. It's what they've done. In the home, there are some fairly strict constraints on how we set up the home, the family home. We're not going to necessarily fill the house with collections of automotive stuff and plaster all over the walls, because it's not going to make everyone in the household happy. No. Maybe one for a while, until that one becomes completely alone and isolated by themselves in their own house with no family. The other is that, so in the garage, you can do what you like. There are no rules. And it's culturally appropriate to set that space up, whether it's a space for 4 cars or for 40 cars or 400 cars, So when I talk to a client, it really is that initial conversation. There's a perception that I might be 15, 20 minutes of time dedicated to this fellow. And then the client and I get talking, and then 2 hours later, we're off to lunch, and we're talking about how exciting it was when we in 1978, when we both unpacked our Scalextric kits and set things up, and then we'd say, come over and have a look at my bicycle, my BMX is out there, and I want to put 4 of those up too. And it just goes on and on. So you just unleash this huge amount of passion about where things have come from, where they're going. So why not put those things in there in a way that tells a story that isn't just a collection of mess that someone else is going to find irritating? Why not frame that even if it is predictable, but why not frame that jersey from your favorite footballer? Why not frame the helmet from the driver that you most admire that you picked up? Why not frame or do something with that series of conrods that you pulled out of your first Cosworth engine when you bought that Ford Sierra, and you thought, oh, look at all this money, and then you realize the conrods are all naked? Why not do something with them to, whether it's as a prop for a tabletop, or do something, whether it's classy and sophisticated in your eyes and completely incredulously bad taste for someone else. Who cares? It's your story. You just live it the way you want. So that's how this business has started, and that's where it just keeps growing, because it's just all about passion.
Have you got any examples of, so you don't have to give the exact specifics, of a really interesting use of something that you wouldn't expect, like a way of using literally anything? Have you got any things that sort of pop to mind?
I love doing that stuff. I love taking unusual things and then doing something with it. There's always the risk of doing something which is just so corny and so done to death, like making a coffee table out of an old engine. But if it's yours and it means something, that's your story, that's great. That's really cool. Just do it. Look, I reckon we're definitely using conrods. A series of conrods was just arranging them and welding them together to make the basis of a glass-topped table. So that using these things in such a way that you just made a sculpture out of the pieces, and then fitting the glass and then putting a band around the edge. So things like that, you can just keep going. And there's really not that much that's original. Everyone's done it. We all do it. What I like to do is to take, actually one thing I really enjoyed doing, probably about 10 years ago, the notion caught me just as we were coming out of that steampunk era, was what do I want to do with all this rusty angle iron and all this rusty steel? So I decided that I would make a range of furniture just out of it wasn't core 10 to have that nice rusty finish that then seals itself off, but just to make a range of furniture for a client out of rusting steel that was basically scrap. And I could show you the pictures of what we did, but then we just designed the thing around a recycled jarrah, and then we used a whole range of pressure gauges and things just to make an interesting backdrop. All of this stuff sounds interesting for the first 30 seconds of the description, until you actually see, and then you think, oh, that sounds very interesting. Let's move on to something else. And until you actually see it and see it in context where it actually means something. But to use the things that clients have, and to make those things in a meaningful way, that's probably the core thing that has standing with clients.
I often see, and at one point in time, whether it was, I make a lot of social media content or whatever, and because I'm really nerdy into photography and videography type stuff, I will follow someone in that world, and they'll do something, and then I'll see someone else do it, and I'll go, that's quite a neat idea.
Yeah.
My brain used to go, yeah, but they've done it. You can't just do that. Whereas the reality is, if you take the technique, the item, the whatever, and you bring it into your domain, of which no one is doing it, because no one, like, they've not got the same links that you do to all the other stuff, and you put your own spin on it, then that's cool. And 99.999% of people that come across it will have never seen the original thing that you saw.
Yeah, very true. And then the argument also stands true that if we avoid doing things that other people have done, we're never going to do anything, because everything has been done.
Yes.
So why not try either put your own spin on it or do it in such a way, or even copy it outright, because at the end of the day, there's a modicum of that project, even if simply the execution, the assembly, which becomes uniquely you. So have a go, do it, and see what happens.
My wife I don't think she gets too annoyed at me, but like a little bit annoyed at me. We'll go and we'll see a cool painting or a cool sculpture or whatever, or something. There was one, we went into an art gallery, and this person made art out of date stamps. You know, those little like stamps. But it made these insane bits of art, whether it was like a landscape or something.
Yeah.
And Rose was like, "Oh, that's really cool. Like, maybe we should get one for our house that we're doing up." And I was like, "Well, one, it's not finished, so we don't know where it's going to go, so we can't buy it yet." Like, but that's just being annoying.
Yeah.
But my brain that likes creating whatever photography and stuff is like, well, it would be cool, but it'd be way cooler if we just got in touch with the artist and said, "Hey, what can you do? Like our favorite landscape or our favorite whatever, or something relating to our toddler with the date of his birthday." Like that. For me, it's like, let's layer this up. Let's take the original cool thing, but let's make it us. And she's like, "Oh yeah, but I kind of just want something for the house." I'm like, no. It's so much cooler if you
that's the typical man thing, though, is it? That's the typical man thing. It's like when I was at school, everyone else was making little pencil boxes, really simple. They'd be finished by Friday. I made a big flip-top drawing table with two little drawers inside of it, and 3 years later, it's still waiting for the edge trim to go around on the handle. So we have a tendency to do that, and it's that because we want to climb the mountain, but we want to climb the taller mountain next door because someone else has done this one.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably. I don't know.
I don't think that's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing.
No, I don't think so. Because I think at the end result is you have something that really does mean a lot more to you.
Yeah.
As long as you've not created a stupid thing.
Yeah.
A really cool one I remember seeing.
Lots of stupid stuff about it.
Oh, yeah, and lots of stupid cool stuff.
Yeah.
Richard Hammond, have you seen his like new sort of workshop? It's a few years old now.
The smallest cog.
They restore cars. Yeah, the smallest cog, exactly.
Yeah.
And in there, he has like a sprue. You know, if you build a plastic model car or something, with original, some body panels and wheels and whatever. I'd not seen that done with on a car before. And I just thought that is like, if you have the space and you have an old car or something that you're done with the panel.
The second one, all the bits. Yeah.
Yeah.
Look, that's a great. I was only talking about that the other day with a client, thinking that I'd love, and this is the dilemma I've got, because as I said before, everything has been done. So if you do it yourself and you copy it and you do it at home, you and your friends know about it. And if you're not doing it for a commercial enterprise, then go hard, be happy. When you do it for a commercial enterprise and you're professing to be a designer of cool stuff for interesting people and please pay me some money, all of a sudden it has to be unique, individual, and different.
Yes.
So I love the notion of the giant Airfix frame of sprue with all the components that you paint in that deep green or whatever the color is.
Yeah.
And then you maybe slide off some decals, overprint some decals. Actually, I haven't seen that done. Overprint the decal sheet, the decal sheet as well.
Oh,
that up on the one with the artwork. I just thought that's what I'm going to do. You can't do it. No, you can do it, but I'm first. So I'm going to do that as well.
I like that.
So I have the RAF round drills from a Spitfire on the wall as a big sheet waiting to be slid off onto the wings.
Yeah.
So when you do that stuff and you have these conversations, it all starts to spin out of control what you want to do. Unless you do that, you can't just go and copy the thing that's been done to death. Unless it's a secondary thing that's a bit of a support act to the main gig. So my job is to always try to work out what to do. That's interesting. One thing I did for a client years ago, he came to me, he had a motorcycle collection, over 240 motorcycles in the collection, ranging primarily from the early 70s, lots of Japanese bikes, early 70s. He had about 4 Suzuki Katanas, and I thought one was enough. And all sorts of really cool stuff. His father and grandfather worked at the Guinness factory, Guinness Brewery, before he emigrated. And I thought, how cool would that be to look at the Guinness factory, the brewery, and take an inspiration from the engineering design around the framework that held the whole thing together, and the vats, the big copper vats. And we use some of that. We take those ideas and that inspiration, and from that I then designed an entire series of racking that supported all these motorcycles. So that was really cool. So that's something that I think is actually, I've got some images that I could probably show you at some point. So that's what I tend to do more, rather than do things that are, here's the thing lying on the ground, let's go and make a coffee table. I look at the person's past and I unite where they've come from with what they're passionate about and what they've got. And that then there's a reflection in the story. One customer, he was a great guy. He was a retired engineer, and we did this workshop. He wanted a 4-car garage with a workshop at the back where he could work on the cars and restore antique furniture as well. On the back wall behind it, I came with this colour. We were both of about the same age, and we both were in that era where school workshops, the technical workshop, where boys and some girls would go and do woodwork and engineering, electrical and metalwork, that sort of thing. There was this institutionalized soft pea green paint, which was used to paint everything. It was an industrial coating. It was hideous, but looking back on it, we both looked back on it fondly. So I then had the paint code analyzed. I then had custom laminate boards made in it, and then we made the joinery backboards out of this green. And then it sounds awful, but then when we tied it into the Meranti timber bench tops, and then the jarrah that we used to do the edges and the stainless steel, it worked really well. And so that harmonized. So it didn't mean anything to anyone else, but it meant a lot to the client, and he would tell that story. And here am I, 10 years later, still telling the story. So, yeah, I can show you a picture and you think, well, that's an awful great. Why would you do that? Because it's not your garage and you don't know. And it doesn't mean anything.
Not my story,
Yeah. That's it.
That's so, that makes complete sense. That is the way to do it. And I want to walk into, let's say, my garage space, and you're like, I'm going to spend a decent amount of money building this and sorting it out and whatever. I might as well try and make it me. Yeah. And not me in the sense just you've stuck all my stuff on the walls. That's not it. This is like a whole nother level of like, okay, where are the colors coming? Where are the materials coming from? Where's the design? Yeah. Like, you want to sit in that room and go, yes.
And what am I going to do with my 35 boxes of Matchbox cars? That and most of them are broken and smashed up, but I can't throw them out. I don't want to get rid of them. Well, why not make something with it? Why not do something with it, whether it's a wall mural or whether it's spelling out your son's name on the wall using the cars to form the letters, or a number that has some relevance to something. And it doesn't have to mean anything to the person that walks in through the door on Tuesday and walks out of the door Tuesday afternoon, because they're not the ones that are important. What's important is I'll jump across a bit. There are spaces I design for people who will always have a Cuban cigar in one hand and an 18-year-old Balvenie in the other hand and think, my life is so hard. What have I done? And everything will be about, how do I make this space reflect how cool I am, whether it's financial or whether it's status or whatever it is. And then there's the other guy. Look, there's nothing wrong with that, because we all have some of that. But then the flip side is, how do I use this stuff? I just want to share this stuff, and I want this to mean something to me, and it's got nothing to do with anyone else. So I want to use this box of Matchbox cars, this box of Meccano, and then I want to use these pictures, this one of Tom Baker when he was Doctor Who, and it's got a scratchy signature on it. Let's use all that and make it mean something. It's going to look ordinary to other people, or kitsch, possibly. And then we just turned it into cool stuff that just makes the heart go tick.
Nice. And is there, in my head, and doesn't 100% align with the people I know, but in terms of like money spent on project and sort of net worth of individual, as it goes up, often garages and stuff become like super clinical. I guess when you have a massive space, that can be the case. But they become really kind of like clinical and clean, and just like a big white room with a lot of cars in, and they seem to have less character, like actual character, not just put stuff in it, but like some personality and whatever. Does that track at all, or is it just like just massively changes?
I think it doesn't matter where your status is, where your money is. If you have the wrong person come in and advise you, you could have a £3,000 or a $3,000 budget, and it could be just as clinical and unmoving as a £15 million investment in a vast warehouse. If you've got the person, and that's the person who possibly doesn't connect with the client, and they're not interested because we've got a job to do, we've got a big space, what can we do? Paint the walls white, put a black thing here, get some artwork over here, and put a fancy light. Oh, and have you got a Porsche engine? We'll make a coffee table for you. And all of a sudden, to all of the listeners out there with Porsche coffee tables, I think they're cool. Have one.
I'd have one.
Actually, so would I.
I'd have to have blown it up, though.
You have to do something cool with it. It's because it's got a conrod through the side or something, and there's a story. So, and that's exactly the point. It's the new engine they bought from the factory with a glass top on it that means nothing, and white walls with some kitsch poster art on it, as opposed to the designer who is going to come in and sit down with you and work out. And not listen to get through the superficial initial story of I'd like this space and I'd want all my cars in there. I want something on there. Can you just make it look cool? And then walk out. It's the person who just doggedly attacks the client and says, "Look, if you want this to mean something, let's just spend some time with me and we'll work it out. A couple of hours, and maybe every couple of weeks we'll have another chat and we'll just drag something out." And I really need to just make a biography of a life, because all of a sudden it's interesting. So to answer your question, the amount of money does not dictate whether it is clinical and cold. It's the interaction between the designer and the client, and the client's willingness to open up.
Yeah. And that makes complete sense. Like, it's, I guess, often it doesn't necessarily track at all. As it goes up, you presumably, and this could be on any end of the spectrum, but someone has more constraints on their time, maybe. All the way, they might have, let's say you got 5 houses, 5 garages to get done, and you're like, look, I just need a garage, I want it to look good, and like, can you sort it out? Thank you very much. Whereas you might not have seen, because of the reasons we discussed earlier, the fact that no one ever shows these things unless it's on YouTube. No one ever sees these garages, so you never get a good reference point of the various options of how things could be done. You just see clinical showroom type stuff because people you might even just go into your Ferrari dealership and you're like, that's quite cool. That's quite nice. And I do personally quite like the sort of clean aesthetic because it sort of juxtaposes like dirty cars and you're like, no, everything is like clean and nice and whatever. But I've just not seen. I see a lot of American ones, generally on tours that are just kind of, for me, they're like nuts. They're just all the neon, all the signs and memorabilia and everything. Like, fine, that's your person. But it's not me.
I've done my share of those. And go back to the Streamline. My first project was an American 50s revival diner. I tried to keep away from all of the neon and everything and just keep it subtle, and it worked really well. And the great guy that I worked with as well, my old friend Crofty, it was a great project. It was really fun to do, and that worked well for him. But the degree of the cultural differences between US and European garages is very, very stark. There's a much greater degree to give into heart and passion and a lot of fun in US projects. In Europe, it's more about fun sophistication. And there's a bit of a reluctance to be too nostalgic about it because the greatest automotive cultural nostalgia in the world, really, in history, really is the US. It's such a fertile ground, and I love doing those projects. But I love doing the projects in Europe, and I enjoy doing projects in Australia as well. Interestingly, where it's going at the moment is I've been speaking to a client who wants to build I won't say which country whereabouts it is because it'll give it away, but a new race circuit with private luxury villas on the track. And there was one years ago in Australia that I assisted with, and we're talking about one at the moment. That's the next level again. It's not just the garage; it's an entire house on a half an acre, right next to a track, and you're putting everything into there. So that becomes, instead of spending a sizable sum of money on an apartment on Lake Como, all of a sudden you're spending the same amount of money in the desert or around nowhere alongside a racetrack and getting a great deal of fun out of that. So it's certainly evolving.
So designing a building to exist at a racetrack versus designing a house to not be at a racetrack, how do you handle that? Because I guess you could make it very car blah 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 blah, but equally you could just make it like a standalone kind of like nice house that just so happens to also have a massive garage.
Often the justification for these things is we're not going to buy the lovely holiday house. In fact, we're going to build one at a racetrack. But what about the children? Where are they going to play? What am I going to do? I don't want to be there. Well, it's going to be a lovely house. It's going to be really nice. There's going to be somewhere to do. Everyone's going to have something to do. So we don't exist in isolation. Most car guys will have, and gals, there's some significant other people in their lives. And not all of us are dreadfully selfish. So we want to make sure that it works for everyone. So these places become just a normal house, just with a really, really big garage aspect. And it could be that the cars stay there, whether they've got 1, 2, or 10 race cars, or 1 or 2 race cars that they track for whatever discipline they like. Plus, they keep the rest of the collection there. It could be the collection, the classic collection that they'll drive to on the weekend and leave the day driver there and then go out in their 275 GTB or if they're lucky enough to own one, or go and track their 246 Dino. It's going to be the sky's the limit. There are just no rules. Generally, it's going to be, how do we make this box work as a home? How do we make sure that everyone here can live comfortably and be happy and have enough space? How does it work as a home in the first instance? We may be there for 2 days or 10 days. And then how do we isolate, or how do we incorporate the automotive aspect in such a way that it either doesn't impact or it has enough of an impact that we can integrate with it, which quite often becomes glass floors or a glass partition wall, and notwithstanding all of the requirements around building regulations in the different countries that we do this. It comes down to how do we interact with that collection as well. And there's a much greater interaction then, because you can get away with a lot more. So let's build the 3 rooms for the kids on the sides. We'll have a spare room for guests, and then we'll have the big family room on a mezzanine floor overlooking a glass partition wall, which looks down into the well of cars, all 50 of them, or all 5 or all 10 of them. And we'll put some on hoists so that we can actually see them when we're sitting down on the sofa as well. The rules, there aren't any. There's no standard. This is really something that has evolved in the past, probably started 20 years ago. I remember seeing the first automotive country club in the North America, probably 20 years ago. And it wasn't even track. It was just a series of workshops and garages where you had a mezzanine and some beds upstairs, and everyone got together on the weekends. Yeah. And it's just exploded since then. It's
an interesting concept. If I had the money and there was one nearby, like an option for that, I think I would totally have. I'd totally do that. Like, I'd have a small place, and for me, I think I can see how you want to square you've got to be able to have a bit of family involvement, but I don't think I'd be like necessarily on all the ones I've sort of come across, go, oh, we're going to go and hang out here for a week. But then I guess it depends on the design of the country club. If it's set up where it's a racetrack and the houses are literally like on the edge and you can just somehow just drive on the racetrack or whatever. Yeah. But I guess if you've got more space, as long as you're within the private compounds of the place, then actually you could be sort of far away from the racetrack. You can still drive your cars there because there's no speed bumps, and like you're in a private lane, and driving a mile in a car is no problem whatsoever. So then you can have a completely different environment for the accommodation.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what's happening around the world, especially with, there's a couple of companies that specialize in racetrack design, international companies. So there are a lot of these tracks set up now. So an entire lifestyle. And the houses, the condos are built sufficiently distant away that you can see the track and you can have an interesting life and a comfortable weekend. You've got your own private compound on your own small allotment, and then the kids can go off, or your whole family can go off and use the swimming pool and the sports fields and the equipment, and go to the cafe and everything else. So it's a little village within the compounds. And then there's also the fraternity of the families who go there, and there'll be 10 families there and all the dads own these things, and they'll have their summer holidays there for however long. So you can make it as much as you like, and most of these organizations, these tracks around the world, are doing exactly that. And then you can take your unregistered race car straight out of your garage on the road that leads straight to the pit and under the tunnel into the pit, so that you're in the park firm basically as soon as you left the driveway within a few hundred meters. I can't think of a lot better, really.
Yeah, I'd love to. The idea of having a racetrack that is accessible to just drive on. Like, you hear stories. I remember a guy, there's an airfield called Bruntingthorpe in the UK. It's not a racetrack, but it was a big runway, and there's like a little kind of sort of track that goes around the outside, more like a road. Annoyingly now you can't use it because it's used for storage for car auctions. But I know one of the guys that has a business on the plot, and to get to the business, you kind of have to drive around the circuit a little bit. And he would always post videos at like 5 p.m., 6 p.m., like 7 p.m. Like everything's shut. There's no one around. And he's just giving it the big send round the main corner. Just like, the lock stops. He's like, just commuting home. Like, that's mega.
And you know that the engine's spinning out at 7,000 RPM. He's in third gear, but then the speedo on the car only reached 35 miles an hour.
Yeah.
Slightly sorted before it goes on to it. That's the great thing about these. And if you go back, have a look at it the other way. If you've got 4 or 5 cars, and you have to buy the big family home with the big allotment so you can put them on, or you buy a nice townhouse in the middle of the city, and you only need to keep the daily drivers there, and then you can have the big place elsewhere, so you can change the ratio of your investment. So that you've got real estate in different locations. So all of a sudden you reduce the requirement to have a big house as your daily.
Yeah.
And anyway, that's my justification.
I get it. The idea of having just one, I mean, it would escalate, but like one track focused car that's never drives on a road.
Yeah.
That you just go out and you just drive it really hard for half an hour or whatever, and you never get. If I live in West London, and to drive to a nice road probably would take an hour. So I was talking to someone about this recently. It actually really kills some of the cars that you would choose to own because you have to do that hour. So you're not going to be in something. There's certain cars I would say are like 30-minute cars. Maybe 45. Get in it. They're hardcore. They're awesome. But you only really want to drive them for like 30, 45 minutes. And then you're like, thank you very much. I didn't die. That was awesome. I'm going to get back into my S-Class, whatever. And that, being able to do that on the track.
Yeah, and that car, if you're driving it, you can drive that car for 15, 20 minutes in peak traffic with 100-meter stop starts. And you've got a heavy clutch, and it's highly strung, and it really only likes to work around about the 2,000 to 4,000 RPM mark. On an open road, you could drive that for 2 hours because you're not having. And so once you get out of the cities, you can do that. It's less. We're less able to do that, but on the track, that's it. But that also that just brings up the question: what's the car? What's the car that you would take on your track? So it's my turn to ask you a question. What is your?
So let's say I'm at a private members club. I've got an apartment. The one I've picked is that Japanese one that's just opened. That looks Magarigawa. That looks like a sick track. And it would have to be a race car. Because why not? And then if you're going to go race car, and I'm sort of just removing my safety aspect from it, there's possibility I'd just go F1 car. Like, why not?
Oh, that's a big call.
I don't think in reality I want to drive an F1 car, but like kind of you're like, yeah, but if I'm only going to drive, if I only need 10 minutes, I only got 10 minutes, why not drive an F1 car?
Well, why wouldn't you then buy 10 mates who'll take timeshare in a Formula One car? All of a sudden, 10 of you, you're only paying 1/10 for the car and the condo on the track, and you're taking timeshare. You get 3 weekends every year, and it's all yours. I can see justification for
justification, man. Math is working its way in. You've got to find the mates.
It certainly is.
You've got to have some sort of agreement. If you stuff it, you fix it. But
that's true. All of a sudden, there's the oil in the there's the sand in the oil, isn't it?
I'm aware that we are ticking along, and there's a few things I want to ask you about. So we're just gonna sort of diverge slightly. Two separate things. One, we've talked a lot about interior and working on the sort of ethos of interiors and stuff. I'd like to talk a little bit more about actual building design and concept specifically for cars. And then the final point I'd like to talk about is if you've got a bunch of ideas for people that are doing small projects themselves, like things to think about, whether it's plumbing in the airlines or those sorts of things. So, but first of all, building design and ideas, whether it's a 2-car garage, 5-car, 50, what sort of things do you do differently, specifically in a car garage versus, I don't know, shed?
If you're serious about what you're going to do with the garage for maintaining the car, keeping a car in good order, a lot of what I do is equivalent to art conservation. It's probably more complicated because if we're talking about the conservation of rare art and fine art, we might be talking about humidity, temperature control. And that's for canvas and the paint medium and the frame. When you're talking about a classic car, let's say we're talking about either a 1926 3-litre Bentley with a Van der Plas body, or we're talking about a 250 GT Shaw base Ferrari with a V12 Maranello engine. The engine, the bare metal surfaces, the plated metal surfaces, the paintwork, the leather upholstery, the glass, the paint surface on gauges, whether it's German silver on the radiator shell from the 1920s or whether it's chromium from today, it all has to be preserved carefully. So when I'm designing a building, we want to control humidity, we want to control temperature. We don't want to eliminate humidity. We want to make sure that humidity is just right. For the conservation of leather, it will dry out very, very quickly in something where you've reduced all the humidity to keep metal safe. And transversely, if you keep it, if it's too high, you're going to get your leather's going to start going moldy. So if I'm designing a building for the preservation of cars, one, we want to maintain an environmental control. We want to control light as well because UV, of course, getting in breaks down paints, it breaks down everything. So they're really the main things. They're practical considerations for the environment control. Always want to make sure that you've got enough ceiling height so that the volume of air is as large as possible so you can try and control where it's going. But also having to, if you've got an opportunity to put a hoist in so you can have a storage hoist, hoists are a lot cheaper than real estate. So try to find somewhere in the west of London, or whether it's in central Manhattan, or whether it's in Chicago, whether it's in Sydney or Melbourne. Real estate is expensive. So always get your building tall enough that you can put a storage hoist in if you want to have one or two more. Really, the other things are mainly practical considerations of space and where you're going to store these things and how they're going to fit.
And when you say storage hoist, would that mean more like a conventional lift, or is that actually attached to the ceiling, lifting something up?
There are so many different types of hoists for storing motor vehicles at the moment. I prefer something that pushes it up and has a lock so that there's a mechanical way to stop it from falling down on the 275 GTV Ferrari underneath. Its company may not be too keen if you've squashed a car with the one above. There are many different things. I like the solid platform vehicle lifts, the cantilever type. The columns are a bit further back so you can access the driver's door of the car below. Lots of good manufacturers around, lots of good products. Stop the oil from getting onto the cars below, that sort of thing. And we certainly use a few of those in this business.
Yeah, it's something I looked at, and then we made the design of the roof so that you could have one space with a lift.
Yeah, right.
And we've sort of decided that we don't want the building to be as high as it was going to be. Just because we're sort of looking at it, so we're scrapping that. But then even just and I've decided I'm only going to have 2 car spaces, and I'm fine with that at the moment. Maybe in 2 months' time, I'll be not so fine with that. But
when you finish building it is when you'll change your mind. You think,
yes, I'm sure.
Damn it, why did I do that?
One thing I've pondered is having some sort of scissor lift or something sunk in, at least flush or semi-flush, so that I can lift a car and like take wheels off and whatever.
That's a practical consideration. There's nothing worse than in a confined garage trying to position a trolley jack and 4 axle stands so they don't get squished when it falls off.
Yeah.
Changing 4 wheels from winter tires to summer tires, for instance, just becomes such a drag if you've got to move this darn thing and spend half an hour just finding the machinery to do it. It's like, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, having the lawnmower down at the bottom of the garage, bottom of the garden, or having it up the top. If it's easy access and easy to do, you'll do it straight away. So make it convenient, make it easy, and make it accessible. So scissor lifts in the floor, the smooth finish, flat floor, easy to do and practical.
Yeah. What things might you have in your garage that someone might not have thought about? Because I could imagine if I'm designing it, I've not designed and built and owned a garage really for like that long and used it. So I imagine, as you say, in a month's time, 5 months' time, basically when you've finished, you'll go, I wish I'd done that. Are there some things that you sort of heavily recommend? Let's say
make it bigger, make it taller. Bigger and taller. Your garage will always be 10% smaller than you need it to be. And as soon as you've built it, you'll always think that's just right, and within a month you'll have 10% more than actually fit in it.
Yeah.
And it's when you promised your better half and said, I'll never get more cars than I can fit in the garage. Well, guess what happens 12 months later? Going to have to leave this one at your parents' house because I've put that project aside because I've realized I'd like to start this one.
Yeah.
So bigger, taller, maximize the space immediately. Don't assume that you're not going to do something, because if you're real car heavy, you will. We all do. Maximize the space. Make it as strong a foundation as possible. Think to the future about how can I, if I am going to expand, what do I need to do now to the foundation, or what do I need to do now to the position of the walls to facilitate an easy evolution of the space in 5 years' time? Are you going to be there in 20 years' time, and what do you really think the place is going to be like, and how many vehicles do you think you'll have then? Just a bit of forward planning.
Yeah. And what about any sort of like equipment? You mentioned probably plumbing in a compressor and stuff like that. Are there any other sort of standard things?
Oh, well, it really comes down to what you're going to do if you're hands-on.
As someone who's not that hands-on, I take wheels off and things like that, and I have put an exhaust on and things like that in the past. I would probably do more if I had a lift, would I do more? But also, do I own, at the moment, I don't really own any cars where I would need to do, they're all quite modern, so I don't really need to do anything.
Yeah, look, I'm the same. I've got a mix of, I've lost track how many cars we've got. We've got my daily cars, my modern cars, I don't work on them at all.
Yeah.
I really don't want to. And my older cars now, I've stopped doing all the restoration work. I only do, I'm building, I've got 2 cars I'm building at the moment, restoring, and I'm happy now to farm out a lot of the restoration work because time is against me. I would never live long enough to do all the cars for one. So what would I do? If I was just doing light maintenance, just make it easy, have a really good space to work, really clear bench, give yourself lots of workspace, even if that bench has to fold up half the time. Give yourself a clear workspace so that you can have easy access to put something up, secure it properly, and make sure you've got plenty of space around this, around the vehicle so you can get to it. And whether it's about whether you're into detailing, if you're going to go to a car show and you're going to take your 450S Maserati that you bought last weekend for 1.5 million at the auctions, and all you're going to do is clean it to detail it before the Concours d'Elegance, then you just want space. And I reckon that's the biggest bugbear of every car guy, every car girl, is that space is a real importance. And just somewhere to store stuff so you're not tripping over it. If you're talking about machinery, your scissor lift is a great idea. It's just going to make a lot of things easier. And whether you need a compressor, well, these days you're not running cross-slide tires. You're not running your Dunlop base tires, so you're not necessarily having to worry about checking tire pressures. But compressors are relatively inexpensive. Have one of those in there if you want to have it plumbed in, or just covered with a line that's easy to get to. But yeah, I think basically for most car people these days, it's about easy access for the cleaning and preparation of a day out in your favorite car. Yeah.
And I'm aware that in our previous rental, we had a double garage and a little drive, which was just completely. I just arrived in this area and was like, "Oh, there's a house for rent. Oh, it's got a double garage. It's got a little drive behind a gate. Perfect. That's awesome." And then the owners decided they want to move back into the house, so we had to move out. And I was like, right, cool, let's go and find another house in the area that's the same size with a double garage and a little drive. And they're like, oh yeah, that doesn't exist. That was literally like the only one. You're like, what?
Yeah, that was a unicorn. Yeah.
I'm just parking off street now, like in front of my house.
Wow.
Oh, this is rubbish. But even then, you have that thing of you've put two cars in the garage, and then you're like, right, okay, well the bikes have got to go in there somewhere, and then you're like, I've got some skis. And it very quickly gets stuff gets closer and closer to your cars, to the point where you're like, if that falls over.
Look, I'm feeling a disturbance in the force. You talking like this? I'm really struggling now. I have been so lucky. My garage is huge. I've got 2 mezzanine floors. It's 7 meters to the apex. I've got and nice. still I've got 2 cars stored at mates' places. And I've still got one that's about to come back from restoration. I don't know where it's going. So I'm planning an extension of the garage with 2 parking hoists to fit. So I need to fit 12 cars in there.
Every time I go to someone's house, even if they've got it literally doesn't matter how big the garage is. There are cars. There's always cars squished into the corner, and they're like, oh no, it's fine. We can get it out by like this, and the gaps between cars are like centimeters, and they're like, yeah, but we can fit it in. If you had,
it'll go
75% of the vehicles in here, which you could probably do, or we'd be able to walk around.
But
I want to have that one.
Space. I think you need to start. We all need to start dreaming higher, or we need to probably offset some of the car aficionados in the place, because the space is the big thing. If you're into cars, move to the country.
Yes,
find a big house. Get a big garage.
I think this is my longer term. We might end up with a place somewhere else at some point, and I'm like, okay, well, if you're going to have somewhere that you're going to keep a bunch of cars, it's going to be there. Land will be much cheaper.
Yes,
and you might have to deal with other things. Have you come across? There is a storage facility in Germany. I can't for the life of me remember what it's called, but it's in a building, and they remove. I think it's very high percent nitrogen. I think.
Yes, I know the one you're talking about. That is next level.
That really is.
I am so impressed. I'm excited by it. At the same time, I'm frustrated by it, because I've been collecting and restoring vintage and classic cars since I was 14 years old. I drive them. It's in recent years, until only up until about 4 years ago, I was driving my Series 2 Land Rover regularly, and my P1800 Volvo regularly, my daily drives.
Nice.
I was riding my motorcycle most of the time, a 1942 Harley Davidson. And so for years, the newest car I drove up until only about 6 years ago was 1963. And where I grew up, you could do that. Lots of lovely open country roads everywhere, right into the city. I'm only 20 minutes into the CBD, and you can do this great stuff. So I'm very privileged and lucky to do that. I can still do that now, and I drive my Mark II Jaguar around to do the same thing. So we can do that now. But so I use all of my classics, and I love the. I saw something. Fuzz Townsend did a little walkthrough of his private garage, and showed us his cars, and he said they're all cars that he uses. So I thought that was fantastic. He uses them, and they don't have nitrogen-enriched environments, and they're out there to be used. So I just wonder where is the balance? If your car's in nitrogen, it's going to stay there for 6 months. Is that a shame? I don't know. Should it be out? Should it be out and on the road and used and repaired and maintained and kept?
Yeah. It would be very interesting to know the sort of usage profile of some of the owners of the place. Because let's say, for example, I presume you've got a decent. One of the things they say is the insurance is like way less and all that sort of blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
because it's not getting stolen. Like, you die if you go in there. But do people? They just keep it there and they live nearby and they're like, okay, I've run out of space. Oh, this is a cool place. I've got enough money. Like, let's put all the cars in there, and they're perfectly stored when I'm not using it. And actually, I just swap out. I've got 3 cars at home, and we swap them out regularly, and the other ones just live in there, and it's actually just better storage than normal. Or it's cars that are going to sit in there for 5 years, 10 years, low mileage, never get used.
Is it a car bank? Is it a car museum bank where it's? I think, look, that's great. If we've got a 1930s 540k Mercedes-Benz or an SSK supercharged Mercedes, and the thing's in a car vault, and there's only 11 of them, nobody ever gets to see them. How do we inspire the next generation of car lovers if all the great cars are hidden away and they only come out once every 6 months? When I grew up, classic cars, and even probably to a lesser extent now, but when I grew up, classic cars were out all the time. They were loved, they were driven hard, they were used, and I know that it's very similar in the US, that cars are used a lot, mainly in the drier climates, of course, because the salty roads, the ice and snow is a problem. So there's the preservation, but then there's do we preserve these things at the risk of isolating the next generation? And if that's the case, then what are we preserving them for? In 20 years' time, when the young people of today, the children of today, aren't interested in them, what are they? Are they just museum exhibits that just collect dust and don't go anywhere ever again? Are we spelling the death knell? I think we should use and preserve.
I think we get a mix. So your Mercedes, they have the Mercedes Museum. I presume not all of the cars are on display the whole time, and maybe when they're not, they are pretty much being preserved. And if that ends up to be that everyone has built, the nitrogen thing is like, someone with a decent amount of money was like, I want to do this. So they built it. Don't get me wrong,
I think it's very cool. I think it's very cool. And if I could say that as my cars are in the nitrogen, I've got to reset the nitrogen gauge. Twiddling on the wall, and big things go up and down, and bubbles with little tubes go like that. And said, I think it's just about right.
Yeah, you're like,
now I'm going to have a cigar and a big glass of whiskey, and off I go.
Nothing's going to degrade in there. Nothing.
That's right.
Like, perfect.
Not even my attitude.
No, but we do seem to have a lot of owners that drive cars, and I know plenty with like pretty cool collections that are like, I want to. Everything has to run, and we use it all. And it's always interesting. I always find it slightly interesting that how people decide how many, and I don't know whether people actually decide, but how many cars they're going to have in, and possibly even whether it's called a collection or not. or it's just my cars. Because I've spoken to some people on the podcast recently who definitely had the wealth to have a lot of cars. Because, well, to be honest, I know people with not a lot of wealth who also have a lot of cars. So it's like anyone can end up with a lot of cars.
Yes. Yeah, and it is a disease.
Someone spoke to recently, he was like 7. He's like, I've decided 7. 7 is the number. It sometimes goes up a bit, sometimes it goes a little down a bit, but 7, I use them all the time. Yeah. Then you also get someone like Jay Leno, who's got 300 and something, and he still does use them. He's like, like pretty much like once a year, I'll drive that one. Yeah. And then like,
Well, I love what Carol Shelby said. And I hope I remember correctly that it was Carol Shelby, but he said, if one is good and more is better, then too much must be just right. And then look, whilst I'm on quoting people, I'll go to Mick Jagger, who said, "If a thing's worth doing, it's worth overdoing." So I think they're two really good phrases that really are the bane of the life of the wife of the car collector or the husband of the car collector, depending on who's collecting.
And you don't know until you've gone too far. We all find our own limit, but we only find it once we've gone too far, and you go, you know what?
Yeah. It's because the council are knocking the door saying you'd have to clean some of this up.
Yeah,
or because the banker's saying
the lawn.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Well, I normally wrap these up with 5 questions.
Okay.
Do you have a most memorable driving trip or journey?
Probably. Oh, no, that's easy. 2018, we took our sons on a road trip from LA to up through San Francisco, Portland, and Oregon. It wasn't in a special car of any sort. It was just a generic SUV. That road trip was great. My boys were old enough to start interacting and being really interested in cars, and we stopped at different places. We stopped at classic car dealerships on the way. We stopped at old dealerships. We stopped at some really great, cool locations. And I have to say, I reckon of all the trips I've been on and all the short-term rallies I've been on in classic cars, it's funny that the answer to that question is in a generic family SUV, but my boys and my wife were with me, and it was just fantastic, and I will cherish that memory forever. Yeah.
A lot of people answer the question with something similar. Like it's often not just a car, a road, because that's not what makes a trip and a journey. Like it can be a good experience, but normally it's who you're with and what you're doing. If you could only drive one sports car and you've got like a cheap something else on the side to fulfill family duties and whatever for the rest of your life, what would you choose?
Jaguar XK120.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, I didn't have to think too hard about that.
I was at there's like a Hampton Court Concours d'Elegance thing. It was this weekend, and a company called
I was there last year's.
Right, yeah. Okay, so there's a company called Thornley Kellum who do a lot of restorations, and they also do some Lancia or Euralia resto mods, and they've just released a Jaguar XK120 resto mod. I don't know whether you've seen that.
Thornley Kellum's car.
It's
I might have done. I've seen so many. What have they done to it?
It's a little bit wider, a little bit lower. It looks it's quite a good looking thing. I'd have a little look on their website. But if you
that's the Roadster.
They do.
It's not a deep green Roadster, is it?
They do a coupe and it's called the European XK, I think, and it's based on an XK120. It's very shapely, but no, quite It's quite an interesting one.
Okay. Look, interesting. I've been a big fan of automotive engineering and design my whole life. And when Mr. McCallum reimagined the Jaguar Saloon and created the XF Jaguar Saloon, I was immediately overwhelmed with horror that he departed from the norm, from the signature styling.
Yeah.
But now I have one and I love it. It's the 3-litre twin turbo. And I think it's one of the best things he ever did. I think that the transition that Jaguar made from the XJ series, that body shape, I think it was a wonderful transition. Now, the XK120 fixed head coupe, there are only something like 200 original right-hand drive cars that were ever produced because they're all made for the export market to bring US dollars into the British economy after the war. When I saw this modification, this customization to one of the rarest coupes that I've been passionate about for many years, I had mixed emotions. And if my mother was here, I would probably be saying things that she'd be very upset about. So I probably wouldn't say too much about it. I think what they've done is mechanically is from an engineering point of view is excellent. I just have mixed opinions about the styling and the modifications. Oh yeah, I'm a bit of a purist to some extent.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I was actually walking out of the Hampton Court Concourse, and there was an XK120. What are they called? Spider Roadster.
Yes, the open to O2. Yes,
the open
two-seater.
Yeah, just parked up. It was black, like a sort of tan interior or something like that.
Yeah,
and I was like, you know what? As like a cool older car, like a classic car, that car is for the. It says this. He's not actually sure what they cost. I feel like they're in UK 80, 90, 100,000 pounds.
So at OTS
Depends.
would probably be, depending, you'd start around 90 and you go up to probably 250 for an aluminium body one, 250 to 300.
Okay.
So
and I was like, it's such a good looking shape. And it's such like that is a great like classic car look thing. And I'm like, yeah, I totally have one of them.
Yeah, have a look at the styling. I mean, you consider the styling for 1948. It was absolutely revolutionary. The thing came out with a twin overhead camshaft engine producing 190 horsepower. And it was the first production twin overhead cam engine in a production car that actually could be driven. They set the world record. I think it was at Jebecca in 48. Norma Jewis is driving, and I think I'm going full anorak now. You've probably worked that out. And the car did 127 miles per hour in fourth gear, and then it drove past the assembled reporters at 10 miles per hour in fourth gear, and then accelerated away quite tractably. So it's an incredible thing. So yeah, that's it. That's my choice. XK120.
I think it's a good choice.
Yeah.
What do you think is the most undervalued car at the moment? What should be worth more?
A Jaguar XK120.
Jaguar XK120.
No, look, I think that's a good question. And I probably cars will have their peak value troughs. They'll start up new price, and then they'll bottom out somewhere before they start going up again. So we really have to talk about cars that have already been at the bottom and are struggling to go back up the other side. Undervalued that should be worth more. You know what? This is probably outrageous, but I reckon it's the Morris 1100.
The Morris 1100. Now, what does that look like?
And you have to understand where it came from and what it was all about. Very early car with unitary construction, designed by Alec Izagonis. It was a car of the people. It was the answer to the Volkswagen Beetle. Everyone everyone learned to drive one in the UK. Half the people I knew who learned how to drive earlier, you want the earlier ones, so the Morris 1100, go back a little bit further.
Like that?
Try the Morris 1000.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, not that body shape.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, there we go. Yeah.
There's one of these that lives literally like this black one about 200 meters from my house.
Yeah, right. Yes. They are such an incredible car from the point of view of their engineering, and also from their marketability, because it was a car that was designed for the people. You could talk about the Jaguar XK 120, but that wasn't designed for the people. That was designed for a specific purpose. And it's such an evocative car. Then you talk about 240Z Datsun, for instance, which was the car that really knocked the E-Type Jaguar off its perch. And then the MX-5 that knocked the MGB off its perch and took over. So those cars were great cars. They're accelerating up the value chain. But the Morris 1100 and the Morris 1000 and the Morris Minor was a car that really, in England and to a large extent in Australia as well, started a lot of people in motoring. A good friend of mine drives one to this day. My son's girlfriend's father still has his that he bought in 1968 and used as whilst he was doing his 78 whilst he was doing his plumbing apprenticeship. So yeah, I think that's the car. The Morris Minor, the 1000, the 1100 are cars that are interesting vehicles that are just are well appreciated, but should be worth more.
Cool. I like that. Most interesting car to you at the moment? What are you looking up, reading about, Googling?
Jaguar XK 120. The car that I really can't get past is the Lamborghini Aventador. I love the madness of Lamborghini, where they've gone. Without a doubt, my favorite designer of all time has been Marcello Gandini, who only just recently died. So Marcello designed the Lamborghini Miura. He designed the Lamborghini Countach. He designed incredible cars. He started out in design and was designing furniture and interiors. And then he moved off to, I'm pretty sure he worked at various coach builders in Italy, but then he remained as an independent designer of magnificent motor cars. I love what he has done with furniture, and I love the legacy where Lamborghini took the modern motor car, the modern vehicle, especially with the Aventador, inspired me some years ago to design a range of a furniture suite. It was a whiskey cabinet, and it was a cigar humidor, and it was made. I designed this thing that reflected the incredible faceted panels and this folded paper shape and all of these wonderful, powerful imagery of the Aventador, and I took that darkness that was, and I'm pretty sure that was the vehicle that was used in one of the Batman films as well. Very gothic nature, and I used that to inspire this furniture suite that I designed for this client. And so that is the car that's always on the edge in my periphery, and that's got to be in the collection fairly soon.
It is one of those cars, like, it's a shame that they sort of drive and all how they are, but getting older, I think that bothers me less, because it's not considered like a modern, super modern supercar or whatever. But that shape, and I think you ask anyone that's gone through their sort of formative car period in the last 10 years, 15 years, ask any young person, like, what is a supercar? They draw an Aventador. Like, you basically asked me, like, what is a supercar? Like, if I was to draw a shape now, an Aventador is that shape.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Such a good shape.
And the Countach was that car. When I grew up in the 80s, it was the Lamborghini Countach. Pioneer and a couple of other big audio plate manufacturers produced all this wonderful footage and all this advertising media around the Lamborghini Countach, especially the anniversary model that when Chrysler bought them. And the same now is true of the Aventador. Yeah, I love it. I'd have one tomorrow.
Yeah, very.
I don't care if it doesn't drive well or not.
Yeah, they're not for town. Although that's where most of them seem to get driven.
Yes.
5-car garage, unlimited value. It's got to fit into your life. So, like, if I don't know, if you commute in something, you've got to have something that you can commute in or whatever. 5 cars.
Yeah. Okay. Jaguar SK120. There's another one. 4.5 litre blower Bentley.
Nice.
C-type Jaguar.
Oh.
This list, those 3 are always on it.
Yeah.
Then the next 2 spots change depending on my mood. And it's either going to be Bentley GT Continental. I do like the new shape. I like the way that they have slimmed down the big hips by adding styling just slightly up from the sills. I like the slimmer-line taillights they've used as well. And Range Rover Sport.
Bish bash bosh. There you go.
Yeah,
that's a nice.
I haven't spent a lot of time thinking about this.
It changes. I think it's. I don't even know. I think I need to spend more time thinking about it. But, like, you know, when you're like those, you're like these two are definitely in there, and then you're like, I don't know about the other ones. Changes.
I reckon my list is basic. I think my list is fairly. For the list of 5 is easy. The list of 10. The list of 5 probably won't change much. The list of 10 is going to. That next 5 is going to be the harder one.
A question
I think we need 20 minutes.
Came up when I was talking to a guest recently, and it's like a bit of a spin on this one because it was sort of loosely based on what I did about 2 years ago. Was if you took all of the cars that you have now and were sort of forced to liquidate them, not blend them up, but just realize their market value into cash.
Yep.
Would you buy them, and would you buy them all back again, or would you do it differently? Assuming that, you know, obviously that you sell it, you can just buy it back, whatever. You can add it back in for the price that you got for it. Would you have all the same ones? And are there some that clash? And you go, I can't sell it, but I wouldn't buy it again.
My second car. When I was 18, I really wanted an MGA. I couldn't afford one, so I bought an Austin Ely Sprite. I've still got that car now, and I hummed and hard. It's fully restored. It's got aero screens. It's got a supercharged 1275. It's about 140 horsepower. It's really cool, but really not cool at the same time.
Yeah,
I would not buy that car again, but now I could not possibly be without it. It's been in the family for 30 odd years. My boys are going to hang on, run out of fingers. I draw pictures. I don't count. I don't do numbers. So that. And I bought. Was really desperate to get a Mark II Jaguar 3.8 manual overdrive when I was 25, 26. And then I came into some money. I thought, make some extra cash. I'll do a wedding car business. I'll buy a Mark 7 Jaguar instead. So I still have that car too. I've got the Mark II, but I just wish I hadn't. It was just a momentary apparition. It's a great car. It won the 54 Monte Carlo Rally. It was the touring car to have. Sterling Moss said it was his favourite saloon car, but yeah, it's just not on my list. So they're probably the only 2 cars. Everything else, I've just been very careful. Most of my cars in the collection I've had for 20, 30 years. And I'm just really discerning now about what I buy. And because I don't want to have to sell, just too hard. I have to deal with people who don't have the same opinion about me, about the value of my ideas. So,
this one's really special. They're like, not to me. Right. Well, thank you very much for coming on the podcast.
Sam, it's been a pleasure. Thank you. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, sweet.